So kids, you are very small, but don't worry, we all are. There are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on every beach on this planet. There are more than 400 billion galaxies in our universe, each with billions of stars, many of these likely to have planets circling around them. So just imagine how many planets there are. What we're going to cover in this video is how did it all start, what happened before Earth and the rest of the solar system came along, how and when did our solar system get here, how did life start and get to humans, when is it all going to end, and how do we know all this stuff exactly? The universe is roughly 13.8 billion years old. So how did it all get started? Well, with a very big bang. We know this because the universe is expanding. This bang really was very big. For example, our solar system is big. If you wanted to drive to Pluto, which is no longer a planet by the way, at a typical motorway speed, then pack a few extra snacks because it's going to take you about 7,000 years. Now this Big Bang, or better put big expansion, really was very big, even bigger than this dog. It took just 100 seconds to reach the size of our solar system, and it is still going strong. So there was no light, no time, no space and no stuff before the Big Bang? Weird or what, huh? Well, we're not entirely sure about that. One idea is that the universe has existed forever in a series of big bangs and big crunches, with the universe expanding and coming back together again. Another idea is that ours is not the only universe, but one of many. This is called the multiverse. Here are some other odd questions and facts about the universe. If you can see a star in the night sky, why may it not be there anymore? The answer is because it takes so long for the light from that star to reach your eyes that it may have burnt out and not actually be there anymore. So when you are looking at the stars in the night sky, you are actually looking thousands of years into the past. So stars must be really far away because light travels really fast. It could go 7 times round the Earth, which is 25,000 miles around by the way, in just 1 second. The Sun is 93 million miles away, and it takes a whole 8 minutes for its light to reach us. So the light you see from the Sun is never now. It's always 8 minutes ago. This understanding about how light works has helped us to understand how time works, and what it adds up to is really, really weird. Because put simply, kids, we live in a time machine. Time and space is kind of like a piece of cloth or fabric. You can fold it if you have enough energy or mass. This changes the way we experience time. For example, if you travelled round the Earth close to the speed of light for just 1 week, when you came back, the world would be 100 years into the future. So, what happened after the Big Bang then? Well, after the Big Bang came clouds of dust called nebulas that formed clumps of stuff pulled together by gravity that went on to form stars, black holes, supernovas, quasars, pulsars, planets, moons, asteroids, comets, collisions and all sorts of other drama. From that point on, nothing in our universe was ever still. Everything around you right now is not even still. It just vibrates differently to you. All of this vibrating stuff and even your body was made in a star billions of years ago. Even weirder is that most of what we see around us does not really exist in the way we think of it. For instance, if you were all crushed down to the size of the atoms in your body, then you would fit on the end of a pin. Everything is made up from 118 elements. Elements are kind of like a paint pot, which when the colours are combined can make up new elements. From the furthest stars and galaxies to the shoes on your feet, all is made from elements. One of the solar systems pulled together over time by gravity was our own. It has 8 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, and was formed around 5 billion years ago. Mercury is the nearest planet to the Sun and looks very similar to our Moon. It orbits the Sun every 88 days. An orbit is when an object goes round another in space. It has really extreme temperatures because it is so close to the Sun and has so little atmosphere. It can get 14 times hotter than the hottest oven and over twice as cold as the coldest place on Earth. Venus is the second planet from the Sun. The atmosphere is mostly made up out of what we breathe out, carbon dioxide. This means that it gets really hot on Venus, even hotter than Mercury because its atmosphere lets out hardly any heat. It is seriously cloudy on Venus. These clouds produce rain of sulfuric acid that would melt the skin off your bones. Not that you could survive the pressure on the surface, of course, which would crush you to a pulp. After the Sun and Moon, Venus is the brightest object in the sky. Venus rotates the opposite direction to all the other planets in the solar system. Earth, our home, is the third planet from the Sun. It sits in the perfect place for liquid water to exist and support life. Water covers 70% of our planet's surface. The Earth is not still. It spins round 15 times faster than a car on the motorway and travels around the Sun at 1,000 times the speed of that car. So you are actually living on a giant spaceship. All the land on Earth used to be joined together in a huge continent called Pangaea, but it separated through the plates which covered the planet, moving apart over millions of years. This plate movement is what creates volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun. It is half the size of Earth. We think there may have been life on Mars and have found ice under the surface. You can jump 3 times as high on Mars as you can on Earth. Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun. Jupiter is big. 1,300 Earths could fit inside it. The red spot on its surface is a storm that has been raging for hundreds of years. Just this storm is at least 3 times the size of Earth. It acts like a giant hoover. Without it, we would be in a lot of trouble because it sucks in asteroids entering the solar system with its huge gravitational pull. Asteroids that may otherwise hit Earth and wipe out all life. Thanks, Jupiter. It weighs more than all the other planets in the solar system put together. Also, Jupiter's 4 largest moons helped us to confirm once and for all that we orbited or went round the Sun rather than the other way round. This happened when Galileo Galilei looked through a telescope and saw satellites, which is another word for moons, on one side of the planet and then the other. So if things go round other things in space, then we're not in the middle of the universe. This finding upset a lot of people at the time who thought we were the centre, but like many people before them, many since, and many to come, new findings proved them wrong. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun. Although Saturn is famous for its rings, it is not the only planet with them. Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune all have rings. Saturn would float in water, if you had a bowl big enough, of course. A day on Saturn is 10 hours long and a year is 29 of our years. Wind speeds on Saturn are 3 times faster than the fastest speeds ever recorded here on Earth. Uranus is the 7th planet from the Sun. It spins on its side, probably because of a big collision with something else in the past. It takes 84 years to orbit the Sun. This means that half the planet is in daylight 42 years at a time. Now that's a very long day. It is the coldest planet in the solar system, twice as cold as the coldest temperature on Mercury, which remember was twice as cold as the coldest temperature on Earth. Neptune is the 8th planet from the Sun. It has almost the same gravity as Earth, but is actually 4 times larger and 17 times heavier. This is because its mass, or stuff it is made out of, is spread out rather than close together like here on Earth. It has the strongest winds in the solar system, twice the speed of my voice as it travels towards you now. So how did Earth come to be so friendly to life? We still have some unanswered questions about the starts of life, but what we do know is that it eventually got started by tiny molecules joining together and eventually making copies of themselves to form something called DNA, which is made up by our unique set of genes. The process of evolution by natural selection then took hold and made all of the organisms, or living things, you see around you today. From tiny germs and insects to trees and people, all are a product of evolution by natural selection. This happens when slight changes occur in the genes when they're passed on to the next generation over time. If these changes work in the surrounding environment, then the organism survives, and if they don't, then they don't. Evidence of evolution actually exists inside you, in something called the laryngeal nerve, the purple one. Rather than this nerve going straight to your voice box like it should if it were designed, it goes down the body and back up instead. In giraffes, for example, it goes a whole 15 feet out of the way. This is because other changes were more important over time, so this nerve was pushed further and further out of the way as new species evolved. 99% of all the species that have ever existed on this planet are now gone. And of the 1% that remains, we are the best at survival. You are the only version of you that has or will ever exist, and as far as we know, are a member of the best species at doing so in all that remain of the 1% today. Quite simply, you are amazing. We are all part of a tree of life spanning back roughly 3.5 billion years, and that tree has a delicate balance and diversity to it that must be maintained and respected if we want to survive and prosper on this planet in the long run. This is why we must take care of all life on Earth by taking care of each other and our planet as well. To give you an idea of just how long it took to create a planet capable of supporting life, here is the cosmic calendar. This calendar represents all the time the universe has ever existed, crushed down to the time of just one of our years. Each month represents just over 1 billion years. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, formed sometime around May, and our solar system around September. Our planet arrived soon after, and life got started soon after that. So, when do you think we humans arrived on the scene? October? November? Nope. December. But what day in December? The 1st? The 15th? Nope. December the 31st, the last day in the cosmic calendar. So what time? Morning, surely. Afternoon, then? Nope. Around 10:30 in the evening. That is how new we are on the cosmic scene. We learnt how to make a fire around 11:32, and at 11:59 and 20 seconds we started to plant crops and tamed animals. At 11:59 and 35 seconds we built the first cities. We have barely been here at all, and just look at how far we've come. So when will it all end? About 5 billion years from now, when the sun will turn into a red giant and gobble up all the inner rocky planets in the solar system. So how do we know all this stuff anyway? I mean, we used to think that the sun went round us and the earth was flat. Did we vote on changing these things? Did we just change our mind because we felt like it? Nope. Over time, new findings in science changed our understanding about how reality works. The good news is that science does not always have to be hugely complicated or just done in a lab somewhere. We are all naturally born scientists. We all like to explore and test things out, and this is really all science is. It's just running a test to see if what you think is true, seeing the effect, and then seeing if you and your friends can repeat it to get the same results. So you do science every time you open a door or put one foot in front of the other. When we do science properly, we always try to make sure we rely on only the strongest evidence possible before we say something is true, rather than just thinking it's true. For instance, the idea that objects of the same size but different weights should hit the ground at different times when dropped from a height was thought by one of the greatest minds ever, Aristotle, to be true. But once again, Galileo was not satisfied to just believe this without first running a test. So as legend has it, he took 2 balls of equal size but different weights to the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and dropped them in front of everyone who refused to accept his claims. And when the balls hit the ground at the same time, his doubters had to admit that they were wrong. This is how we get better and come to know more about our world and the universe. It does us no good to just believe anyone for the sake of it, not even Aristotle. Is science very often hard work? Yes, absolutely. But anything worth doing is always hard. It is better to say that I don't know and work on finding out than to just believe something without evidence. So the final message of this presentation is to ask questions, never stop asking, and to try not to be so quick to accept anything without good evidence. We have a lot of issues to sort out on our tiny planet, and we do not know all of the answers to our questions, or even what our questions in the future will be. But if we stay curious and work together to try to find these answers, then we can accomplish anything. You are the future, kids. You bring new eyes to old problems, which means that you can see things that us adults may have missed. You can have any future you want, so try to go forward in life and make a positive difference in the world by using something that works. Use science. Thanks for listening.